Good evening. Britain lost a princess today. A young woman described by all to whom she reached out as irreplaceable. An early morning car crash in a Paris underpass ended a life with more than its share of pain and courage, warmth and compassion.
Princess Diana's death in 1997 shocked the world. But more than 2 decades later, questions still remain. Was it simply a tragic car accident, or was there something more sinister at play? In this video, we are going to break down the final hours of Diana's life, the strange inconsistencies in the official story, and the conspiracy theories that just refuse to go away. Why was the driver intoxicated? Why was the ambulance delayed? And why did MI6 whistleblowers claim she was being watched? Was it an accident, negligence, or something far darker? Let's uncover the truth behind one of the most mysterious deaths in modern history. Alright, so before we go full tinfoil hat, let's examine the official story that we are given by the authorities. We are told that on the 31st of August 1997, Diana, the Princess of Wales, was in Paris with her boyfriend Dodi Al-Fayed. The couple left the Ritz Hotel late at night and were pursued by the paparazzi. In an attempt to escape, driver Henri Paul was speeding through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Henri was said to have been over 3 times the legal limit. The car hit a pillar and crashed. Both Henri Paul and Dodi Al-Fayed died instantly, whereas Diana, who wasn't wearing a seatbelt, died a few hours later. So, case closed, right? But here's the problem. Nothing about this story makes sense. The official explanation has so many holes in it that even the British and French investigators couldn't answer all the questions. Okay, so what do we know? We know that Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed had spent the evening at the Ritz Hotel owned by Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, who also owns Arrods and randomly used to own Fulham. Anyway, they originally planned to head to Dodi's apartment, but at the last minute a decoy car was sent out in front while Diana, Dodi and driver Henri Paul and the bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones left through the back entrance in a black Mercedes. Minutes later, they were speeding through the streets of Paris, reportedly to escape the paparazzi. But here's the first red flag. Why was Henri Paul driving? He wasn't their usual driver. In fact, he wasn't a driver at all. He was the hotel's security manager. And he was smashed off his tits. Seriously, Henri was said to have a blood alcohol level of 1.75 grams per litre. This would have classified him as severely intoxicated, affecting his coordination, his reaction time, and his judgment. And it would have been obvious that he was intoxicated. He would not have been able to just act sober. People would have clearly known that he was shit-faced with blood alcohol levels of 1.7 grams per metre. We know this because of the toxicity reports taken post-mortem. However, this is where the conspiracy theorists start to actually make some valid points. There is literally CCTV footage of Henri Paul moving around just fine about an hour before the crash. Could he have gotten that drunk that quickly? I mean, it's theoretically possible, but he would have to be really knocking them back off camera. So maybe. Alright, so what else doesn't add up? Well, let's talk about the ambulance that arrived on the scene. Diana was still conscious when the emergency responders arrived, but instead of rushing her to hospital, they spent over an hour at the scene. The hospital was just 4 miles away, but it took nearly 2 hours to get her there. Why? The French emergency services claimed that they were treating her on site to stabilise her condition, but many experts argue that she would have been saved if she'd have been transported sooner. Now there's a saying, right? Never attribute to malice what you can attribute to stupidity. So, it is far more likely that they were just incompetent. But still, 2 hours just to get someone 4 miles away in a giant ambulance with sirens, it's just not a good look. Alright, so we've got a pissed up Frenchman driving too fast and incompetent paramedics driving too slow. It's bad, right? But it doesn't really scream conspiracy, does it?
But wait! There's more!
Right, so things are about to start sounding more and more suspicious. Paris is a major city. It has hundreds of traffic cameras, yet no footage of the crash has been released. The cameras that should have caught the Mercedes speeding into the tunnel were conveniently not working that night. Interesting. Oh yeah, and there's the case of the white Fiat Uno that multiple witnesses reported seeing in the tunnel, which allegedly clipped the Mercedes before the crash. Traces of white paint were found on the wreckage, but the car and the driver were never found. Could this white Fiat Uno have nudged Diana's car into the pillar? Well, it's possible, and the evidence would actually support this theory. Mohammed Al-Fayed has claimed that the car belonged to MI6 agent James Bond, just kidding, James Anderson, who later died in suspicious circumstances in the year 2000. Now, former MI6 officer Richard Tomlinson has testified that the crash matched a known assassination technique used by intelligence services, a bright flash of light to blind the driver. And he also revealed that MI6 had files on Diana and they had planned a similar hit on another world leader, again using a tunnel. Whoa, this is getting a little bit scary now. Diana herself was worried that she might be killed. In 1995, she reportedly told her lawyer that she feared she would be killed in a car crash. Diana wrote in a letter, "My husband, King Charles, is planning an assassination in my car, brake failure and serious head injury." Now, was she just being paranoid, or was this a premonition of things to come? Alright, so if Diana's death wasn't an accident, right, who wanted her dead? Who benefits from Diana's death? Well, there are a few suspects. Perhaps the most obvious suspects would be the royal family. Diana was a constant source of stress for the royals, especially her ex-husband, the now King Charles. Charles never wanted to marry Diana. He envied her popularity with the British public, and let's face it, she basically made a cuckold out of him with her entanglements. And she was going to marry a Muslim. According to Mohammed Al-Fayed, Diana and Dodi were engaged and pregnant. This means that the future King of England would have hypothetically had a Muslim half-brother. So yeah, you know, just a good old bit of British upper-class racism sprinkled on top of it all. Okay, maybe, and I know this is definitely going to sound a bit crazy, but the Queen, right, was a trained mechanic. Alright, that's stupid. Let's move on. Another option is MI6 and the British establishment. Alright, so I do not think that the Queen executed an Order 66 on Diana. Nor do I think it was Charles. But the establishment behind the royal family, right, sways tremendous power from the shadows. Some believe that MI6 orchestrated the crash to prevent Diana from exposing secrets about the monarchy. She was an outspoken critic of the arms industry, which is worth billions if not trillions, and landmines, a direct challenge to Britain's military interest. MI6 kind of represents Occam's razor in the Diana death. All things considered, it makes the most logical sense. This includes the official story, which ironically seems to make even less sense than MI6 did it. Seriously, it's a lazy answer, but it makes the most sense than a sober man got drunk off camera and then crashed into a pillar. Again, there is a former MI6 officer, Richard Tomlinson, who admitted the crash matched a known assassination technique used by the intelligence agencies, and the MI6 had planned to assassinate a former leader in a car crash similar to how Diana died. And again, there's multiple whistleblowers. David Shaler is an ex-MI5 officer who claimed that MI6 had been monitoring Diana because of her relationship with Dodi Al-Fayed and her anti-landmine campaign. Did he link MI6 to her death? No, but he suggested that MI6 had a motive to keep an eye on her. However, Shaler would go on to become a crazy conspiracy theorist, claiming that he was the Messiah, so yeah. Then there's John Hopkins, who on his deathbed in 2017 claimed that he was an officer in MI6 and that they had killed Diana. However, there is no record of John working for MI6. But that's what they want you to think. So, was it an accident or an assassination? After 2 decades, one by French authorities and one by British authorities, the official conclusion that it was just an accident caused by a drunk driver and aggressive paparazzi. But with so many unanswered questions, the missing CCTV, the suspicious ambulance delay, the mysterious Fiat Uno, the MI6 whistleblowers, the Queen's mechanical knowledge, and Diana's own predictions, can we really say for sure? Right, what do you think? Was Diana's death just a tragic accident, or was there something more sinister behind it? Let me know in the comment section, and while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.